There we go. Live streaming on multiple platforms, on YouTube as well. Very good. All right, bear with me here, everyone. We're just getting the live stream started now. Bear with me here, everyone. Hi, everyone. Well, we're just going to start a little early here because everyone is starting at 5 p.m. So everyone that's supporting me here, thanks very much. Really appreciate it. We're live streaming. We're multicasting on YouTube and Rumble as well now. I've given up on YouTube. I got to grab my other device here. I've given up on YouTube because there's a little too much censorship. But, I'm going to give it a chance anyway. And if I get kicked off of there, I get kicked off of there. Rumble is my primary platform. So, okay, let's get, we're live on Rumble. We should be live on Rumble. Let me double check my feed here. On Rumble. All right, very good. On Rumble. Let me double check my feed. Let me mute it. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the Relief Valve Podcast. We're simulcasting on YouTube, Rumble, on audio. We're on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. I'm not even sure is a thing anymore. Amazon Music and several other podcasting stations as well. Buzzsprout. Thank you to Buzzsprout. They automatically disseminate the show to multiple locations. So hello, everyone. And yes, the top of the hour here today on a Sunday. Normally, I do the shitbag roundup. But the king shitbag himself, the oatmeal brain god, whose brain is expired oatmeal, has dropped out of the race. So let's get into, apparently, as I'm understanding it, at least from right now, that he's going to stay president. I don't know if he's going to be 25th Amendment. I don't know if they're going to force him to step down and let Kamala take in. Right now, he's going to remain president until November, which I find difficult to believe, because if you're stepping down to run because of all your mental deficiencies, I don't know how you can continue to run the government officially until such time as your term is up. It's all very odd. It's a little unprecedented right now, at least for our generation. So let's get into it. So what comes next for the Democrats after Biden's campaign suspension? It's not too late for another eligible Democrat candidate to appear on the top of the November ballot. So this is what's happening. He stepped down and he's endorsed Kamala Harris right now. And you've been hearing some of this talk going on right now, and it's been hearsay and guesswork at this point. But originally, the original plan, which has taken a couple of different forms, has turned into this. He refused to step down. Then the Democrats that were all pushing him, they were saying, your brain is made of oatmeal. You can't function anymore. We need a new candidate. Our entire organization is in shambles. And they were saying, well, we want to have an open delegate vote at the DNC in August in Chicago, where they're probably all going to be shot by gang members anyway. But they wanted to have their delegates normally all come together as they did for the RNC, and they vote for the front runner. They very rarely split and vote for somebody else, and then they're outvoted anyway. So the next step that came up was, well, stay president, but let our delegates vote for who they want at the DNC, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in August, and let us come up with a new front runner. And if they do genuinely, if they don't vote for you and they come up with a new front runner, we'd like you to step down and honor who the delegates have chosen to run for office. That was what it evolved into when they were pushing Dementia Joe to step down. And again, he refused because his family's corrupt. Jill loves being the queen of America, so she loves her lifestyle. She doesn't want her husband to step down. Hunter is worried about all the crimes, the much further of prosecuting of all of his crimes he's going to face when daddy can't protect him anymore. So he's worried about that too. So Hunter and Jill were the two biggest proponents of Dementia Joe staying in the race. And apparently they've lost the battle. because the entire Democratic Party at this point is turning and saying their donors are saying we're not going to give any more money to Biden or any other Democrats that are running for office until Biden makes the right choice in our estimation. The Democrats are coming out, Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, and others are coming out and directly saying right now, you need to step down. You're done. You can't run this anymore. And on top of that, his poor performance is going to drag down all the other Democrats down ballot. So what they're worried about is if you're a Democrat running for re-election in your district or in your state as a congressman or as a senator, they're worried that the poor performance of Joe in office will also affect their re-election efforts because what he's doing will reflect on them. So the entire Democratic Party has been in absolute chaos. It's an absolute mess. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, they're traitors to the country. They hate the country. So, I mean, I'm eating it up that they're eating each other. But it has turned into that they've asked Dementia Joe to step down. And I don't believe the COVID thing at all. I'm going to say that right now. He went out with COVID very conveniently, and the legacy media and others are pushing this. I don't believe for one moment that he had COVID. I believe that he came up with him and his staff came up with that he had COVID so that he could drop off the map, go into the bullshit quarantine thing that you do for COVID, and then they could really sit down and explore all their options on how he would step down. Because you remember, first he said, I'm not going to step down. And then he redoubled down on that and said, I'm absolutely not stepping down. I'm the front runner against Trump. And then it softened a little bit. And he said, well, if a doctor comes up with something and then they say that I'm suffering from something medically, I will consider another person to step in and take my place. So it very quickly changed after he was being defiant. Then he very conveniently got COVID, which COVID, as everyone knows, COVID isn't even really a thing anymore. So he very conveniently got COVID again. And I think that was to sit down and have a strategy meeting with him and all of his team on the best way for him to transition and get out of office. Was it viable for him to stay in? Or did he have to step down? And what was the situation that he would step down, and how would the Democratic Party move over? That's what I believe the fake COVID situation was. So don't believe for 1 minute that he has COVID. I don't believe that he does. But let's continue on here. With only months until the presidential election and once presumptive nominee President Biden no longer in the race, the steps for the next Democratic Party member may seem somewhat unclear. Here's what you need to know about the Democratic Party's nominating process following Biden's decision to drop out of the 2024 race. This is Fox News. Biden was a presumptive nominee for his party, having secured the vast majority of his delegates, which were awarded after primary elections this year. But now that the president has withdrawn, the delegates are no longer pledged to him and are free to vote as they choose. Now, any eligible candidate can run for the nomination. Vice President Kamala Harris, Governor Gavin Newsom from California, Gretchen Whitmer, the Wicked Witch of the North from Michigan, can run, are often mentioned in the media. If Biden endorses a candidate, that person would have a clear advantage. In order to become a candidate, someone must receive signatures from at least 300 delegates. A maximum of 50 can come from each state delegation. To win the nomination, a candidate must receive the vote of a majority of pledged delegates at the party's roll call, which would be 1,976 of more delegates. That is not a popular or public vote. The Democratic primaries, where such votes have already happened throughout 2024, Biden won almost all those contests because they're all left-wing shitbags that all support the idiot that they're told to. All those contests, and was therefore awarded almost all the pledged Democratic delegates. Now that turns the entire thing upside down. So now these delegates have to come up with a new person. And after you've done early voting, you know, that cheating bullshit that the Democrats use, the early voting, which a lot of states are doing now because of COVID, a lot of states don't allow you to change your vote. So if you voted for Biden, you're done. You're not turning around and voting again for the new delegate that the Democrats come up with. Your vote is gone. And since he's not running, you just like insert name here. You just signed a name. Like I vote for Matt from the Relief Valve podcast to be president. It turns into a write-in vote. It means almost nothing at all unless you got the entire nation to do a write-in vote. So the only step left in the process is for delegates to formally nominate a candidate during the party's roll call vote. This is the regular part of the nominating process that would have occurred even without Biden ending his campaign. If no candidate reaches a majority in the first round of the roll call, then multiple rounds of voting take place, and superdelegates can also vote. At the Democratic convention, a superdelegate is an automatically credentialed delegate, such as party leaders, governors, and members of Congress. No debt that would prevent or lock out another eligible Democrat candidate from appearing on the general election ballot. The Democrats are currently expected to formally nominate a candidate in August, but before the meeting at their convention and a virtual roll call. So they're going to do this behind closed doors, away from the eyes of the American public. All of these scumbags are going to go have a Zoom call, and they're going to decide who their next delegate is to run. He's endorsed Kamala, who slept her way to the top. She has no credentials whatsoever. She's throwing her hat in, as well as the Gretchen Whitmores, the Gavin Newsoms, and rumors swirling of Hillary Clinton making another run of it again. I think they've been begging for Michelle Obama, but she wants nothing to do with it. So, or as Michael, as we call her, the transgender husband of Barack Obama. She doesn't want to be in the limelight. She wants nothing to do with it. Clinton is a power-hungry, in my opinion, a power-hungry, murdering scumbag. So she would love the opportunity to attempt to be dictator-in-chief of the United States. So we'll see if she throws her hat into the running as well. But let's continue on. The process and schedule could, however, still change. A change in candidacy after that point would be settled by the Democratic National Convention. It would certainly be a political disaster, and as time passes, could also present legal and logistical challenges. And again, that concludes everybody that's already used their mail-in ballots and their early voting, and they've already voted for the person that they want and will not be allowed to change and vote for somebody new, because some states don't allow that. Some states will. They'll cancel out their vote, and then you will be able to go to the voting site and vote again for the new Democratic official. But there are others who do not allow that. So you're done and you're out of it, which I think early voting is stupid. I don't do that. I'm a patriot. I'm an American citizen. I go to the ballot box on the day that it's time to vote, and I cast my vote. I don't do this 4 months in advance crap, the lazy man's guide to voting. No one should have to do that. Unless you're overseas or you're an elderly person that has a hard time getting out of the house, no one else should have to early vote at all. There's no excuse for it. The polls open up at like 8 a.m. and they close at like 8 p.m. So if you can't get there before your work shift, you should be able to get there after your work shift. There's no excuse. So let's continue on here. President Biden endorses Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democrats' 2024 standard bearer as he suspends his 2024 re-election campaign. So President Biden announced Sunday that he will suspend his 2024 re-election campaign amid mounting pressure from within the Democratic Party for the president to end his 2024 bid after a disastrous debate performance last month. The unprecedented announcement comes as an increasing number of Democrat lawmakers have begun to publicly call for Biden to step aside, and the party's leadership reportedly was engaged in efforts to convince Biden, 81, he could not win in November's general election against former President Trump, the 2024 GOP nominee who Biden defeated 4 years ago to win the White House. Biden quickly offered his full support and endorsement for Vice President Kamala Harris to take over as the party's presidential nominee. And they had to do this, right? Because the Democratic Party has forced themselves into a corner of being the DEI group, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion group. So that Black people and minorities that have no qualifications whatsoever. That's why you've got Karine Jean-Pierre, the Black lesbian, who's like the worst press secretary in history, is the press secretary because she was a DEI hire. Because she was Black, she was lesbian, she was all of the things. She checked off all of the boxes. So they pushed themselves into a corner. So if Biden stepped down and he didn't choose the Black woman to be his successor, everyone in the Democratic Party would go, well, wait a minute, you're all liars, and you've been disingenuous to us because you chose another white person. You chose a young white guy from California as a person to take over his office. You didn't choose your vice president. So they backed themselves into a corner, and they chose the whore, Vice President Kamala, who has no qualifications whatsoever. She loves Venn diagrams. She loves electric buses, and she loves to say, moving forward, unburdened, moving forward to know what we can have, unburdened by what has been. We're all still trying to figure out what she means by that. And I'm not even sure she knows what she means by that. But she's the dummy. She's like the dementia patient whose brain works. That's the scary part. She's as dumb and feckless as Biden, but she's a younger human being whose brain functions. So that's really dangerous because she's accomplished nothing. She slept with the mayor of Los Angeles or San Francisco in order to become the DA, and she slept her way to the top. She's never accomplished anything on her own genuinely, but this is who they're pushing for. And all of this week, up to the point where Biden announced today that he was going to drop out, she's been taking campaign donor phone calls. She's been taking strategy phone calls, and they've been setting her up to be the next one. So there are others out there, but I think they're going to push Kamala Harris. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as you as president, Biden wrote in a public letter. Yeah, thanks for screwing up all our lives, idiot. While it's been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interests of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. Well, your brain is made of expired oatmeal, and you haven't done one good thing your entire term. So we understand what you're saying, mostly. Biden said he will formally address the nation later this week about his decision. This is what he put online. And we'll read this from X, which I'm back on again. Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. I'm back on there again. The Relief Valve Podcast. You can find me on X. Please follow and support the show and get people over there. Thanks to Elon Musk, the show is back on X again. So on July 21st, today he puts on, my fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. No, we don't. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation. No, we haven't. In lowering prescription drug costs for seniors. No, we have not. And expanding to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances. Haven't really done that either. Passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, just taking away the rights from legal gun owners. Appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court. That was not anything to brag about at all. She's a radical activist leftist, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. The Green New Deal garbage is fake. The climate change scare is fake. Things are not as bad as they push on you and they make it out to be. The Green New scam is just that. It's a scam. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. That's not true in any way, shape, or form. You have quite nearly destroyed the country. I knew none of this could have been done without you. We didn't help you, you fucking scumbag. You screwed it up on your own. The American people, together, we overcame once-in-a-century pandemic. No, we did it all by ourselves. We didn't need you. We didn't need your COVID push. We didn't need experimental vaccines that don't work shoved in our arms. We didn't need our face diapers to nearly choke us to death in 100 degrees in the summer. We needed none of those things at all. The American people completely figured it out all on their own. The pharmaceuticals screwed us over with that. They made a vaccine, and I'm back on YouTube again, and I'm probably going to get kicked off. The pharmaceuticals made something that is problematic at best, and doesn't really help anyone. And now I think it's a little more okay to talk about now because people are dying from this. And multiple news organizations, and I've come out and talked about it as well, that the multiple statements have come out from all the companies. J&J pulled theirs off the shelves. AstraZeneca pulled theirs off the shelves in Europe. And Pfizer and Moderna are really the only ones that are going as well. I think Russia might have pulled theirs. Korea might have pulled theirs. China might have pulled theirs. And all because they were causing myocarditis and pericarditis, which is essentially strokes, if you want to break it down to layman's terms. So not helpful in any way, shape, or form. I got COVID. I laid in bed feeling shitty and binge watched my favorite shows. And after my body fought it off, using my own defense system to do it, I got back to work and I got back to life. I never got COVID again. So his comments about COVID are absolute bullshit. Let's continue on with this crap. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. No, you just use your position to line your pockets as president, sending your crackhead son to go to Ukraine and give you money, go to China and give you money, and then screw over the American people while you hook up your buddies in Ukraine. That's what you've done. It's there's no honor here for anyone at all. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, yeah, but nobody wants you because your brain's made of oatmeal, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. So that's the only really true part. It's in the best interest of me and my party. Focus on my party. They're the ones, George Soros's, the Democrats and the other scumbags who are worried about their own political careers, and what he's doing is affecting them, not the American people, them. And that they're going to lose their reelection campaigns, and that they're going to lose the House and the Senate to the Republicans, or they will not be able to regain the House, and they will also lose the Senate. That's what the Democrats are worried about. So it was in the interest of his best party, in his party, not of him. And it's certainly in the best interest for the country, with the caveat being we end up with Kamala Harris taking over. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner. Yeah, she's super useful. The Borders are, who's never been there and never been to Europe as well, by her own admission, in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people, not me, asshole, I want nothing to do with you, for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I have zero trust in you. I believe today what we always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America, and it looks like /R Betas. That's supposed to say Biden, but it's like BIDOS, Bidos. /R Bidos. So thank you to the brain dead dementia patient. He has stepped down. This is the Relief Valve podcast on Buzzsprout for everybody there, if you want to go up there and check it out. We're also on Rumble as well as Matt the Ventilator, because they don't let you use show names for some odd reason. So you can find us on Rumble as well as YouTube at the Relief Valve podcast. So I wanted to give everyone a comparison here, but Trump responded to this as well. So I wanted to give you guys, this is prior to this, about the last 2 weeks after the debate, the failed debate, and then his failed move when he went to go address NATO, and when he tried to do his big boy interview, which turned into his administration called it the big boy interview. That's not me. That's not anybody else, because they were trying to clap back at everyone who said he did a god-awful job at the debate, but it was a one and done. That was not really him. He had a rough day and he wasn't feeling well, they said. Everything else, 100% gold. Like, don't believe your lying eyes when you've seen this moron trip upstairs, trip on stage. He had an interview on a black radio station just recently, right before he dropped out, where he was talking about his administration, and he couldn't remember who Lloyd Austin was, his Secretary of Defense. So he called him, I have that black guy in my administration. That's what he said. I'll try and bring that up later. He said, I've got that black guy over there. He forgot Lloyd Austin's name and called him the black guy that I've got. But the Democrats and the legacy media have been feeding to you all this time that Dementia Joe was perfectly fine. There were no issues with him. Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe, him and his stupid wife, both absolute cock-sucking left-wing morons. And I played this comparison for you on one of my previous shows. They said, if you don't believe Biden's cognitive abilities, if you don't believe he's 100%, and then he can do this job, fuck you, was what Joe Scarborough said. You fuck off, all of you. And then after the debate was over, he was like, yeah, that was a rough debate. And I guess there's questions that have to be asked because you couldn't sugarcoat any of that garbage. In real time, not only did Trump absolutely kill that debate, but he showed the whole time Biden was basically like, he had this surprised look on his face, like he was actually debating Casper the Friendly Ghost. and the ghost had drifted in and was talking. And he was like, "Whoa, Casper, holy shit, ghosts are real." That was his fucking look for the entire debate, pretty much. So finally, the message from the corrupt Democrats, which was "Don't believe your lying eyes" for anything Dementia Joe was doing, it was absolutely impossible in real time with Trump and Biden in the same room. You could no longer lie to the American people. And the rest of us who follow this on a regular basis knew the oatmeal brain god has been gone since the very beginning of his presidency, and it has gotten progressively worse. But for everybody else that was kind of just walking in the door and realizing, well, oh shit, Biden? Really? Brain dead? Yes. Welcome to the party, pal. He's been brain dead for quite some time. And we've said that to you, but no one wanted to listen because you just said we were conspiracy theorists, and our bias in hating him was the real reason that we thought these things, not that his brain was composed of expired oatmeal. So that finally came out and no one could deny it anymore. And since then, it has been a roller coaster that only goes down into the core of the planet for the Democratic Party. It has been an absolute disaster for them. So 2 weeks leading up to this, let me show you some clips of the Democratic Party explaining why Biden should stay in office. No, he doesn't. In fact, Swalwell, who slept with a Chinese spy. A setback is nothing more, and I reject the offer that I am Mike Tyson in a Hakeem Jeffrey skin suit. All right, so those morons about a week to 2 weeks ago defending Joe Biden staying in the race. So now, as we got closer to this, here's more talk about all the Democrats turning on him and saying, "Get the fuck out of here! You're a disaster." This was about a week ago. That didn't happen. So one of the things was, and what they're explaining here is, he wanted to try and stay in office until Bibi Netanyahu from Israel showed up to have his meeting about what's currently going on between Israel and Palestine, so that Netanyahu wouldn't have the satisfaction of this guy who's been screwing Netanyahu over for this fight against Hamas and the terrorists in Palestine. Wouldn't have the satisfaction of him dropping out of office. His meeting's Wednesday. He's dropped out today. So it looks like that's going to happen anyway. Netanyahu needs to address him as the person who is not going to be president for that much longer. He doesn't have COVID. So that was a couple of days to a week ago, essentially. Here's this left wing shitbag, Van Jones, emotional reaction to Biden's withdrawal. You spoke liberally, coalition. What kind of retard do they have doing this? President Cato, be democratic, nom. Also, come Gertry. It's a closed caption guy. On the trail fundraiser and Master Satane was a tea brought more than $2 on DC. CE with Sobis RS and the SIG to who I spoke wig. What the fuck? You're all seeing this, right? What exactly had happened, but sign. Fascinating. Let's see what shipping I got to say. God. I'm sorry, everyone. We got a fucking commercial. All right, fuck off. Thank you. Family of shitbags. Look at that. While you're watching this, look at the person that's writing this out for the closed captioning. I'm not the only one that's seeing this, right? When you're seeing them talk, look at this. It's like an alien has taken over, and they're writing this from fucking SETI Alpha 6. Look at this. Biden's body may not. When your grandpa you know stress silly geet keys BK just cry because this is stroke take team no heat no heatings politics. This is a human event. Where the fuck is this being written? Thailand? A human sin. Ika. This is hello. WNI. Morons and CNN. Leader, this is patriotism. Is I path first street and RLN. You're tired. You'll lead USST. Tone note. Fucking idiots. It is painful, Evie. TH Kong. Your people crying. Yeah, but you jackasses aren't president of the United States. No one's honoring him. No one appreciates him. He's a fucking dictator, a tyrant, and a moron. A corrupt moron to boot. Good. Like this, we often talk about lens of who's going to fare. 3 weeks since THDER to see what E binds wanted him to out on Friday night. Said, see of hell, you come out and eight president ND just to see her. Said his what? How do we all come rolling? Rolling? Wouldn't have careers. I wouldn't have agreed with Bean, picked Mao. Work fee was the administratios. Embrace all this has gotten those who call cards. Thugs happen. E, he feels let down. He, Fern, him. Him recognized Iowa as loving AW. LL, no! Matter what? S people. They velocities after T. G, how my AD to but fitting T. This is not Polil in sick. If T do it, there's nothing wrong with that. If T, hey, and aren't those words by S? Art here, where P, Juanito. There are people. There are peoples. Man, hold all of us. Realize thing. Pass. What is this, fucking Scrabble? No one's elites responded did about I love Joe Biden. Lost control. EB normal time. Ya halt. Hold on. Ya alt. Y apostrophe ALH, another apostrophe T. Is that like, that's that Farsi? What the fuck is ya halt? Is that ghetto slang? Normal time, period. Ya halt, y'all. Just litices. Litices. This is fucking gibberish. Hold on. There's the rest of the word. LITICSESMEONWHO space FO. If anyone can make that out, please write in the comments right now and let me know precisely what a liti ses myeon hu fo, unless that's just Taiwanese and I'm missing it. Let's we're gonna move on. So getting serious here for a minute with the shitbag Van Jones. Let's get rid of the shit commercial. I watch the Daily Wire and I watch Ben Shapiro, and Ben Shapiro talks about this piece of shit Van Jones. Oh, well, he's a good guy. I'm friends with him. He's a good guy. He's, he speaks the truth and he speaks honestly. No, he doesn't. This scumbag is telling us to rally about Joe Biden, and support him through this difficult time. The Joe Biden that's raise your gas prices. The Joe Biden that's raise your food prices. The Joe Biden is the reason you can't buy a house anymore. The Joe Biden is the reason that your account is empty. The Joe Biden that's put us into almost World War III. The Joe Biden who has pretended that he is a competent individual when he has destroyed this country and plunged the world into World War, to almost on the precipice of World War, because he's a liar, he's a coward, he's weak, and he can't do the job that's required to run this country. This piece of shit Van Jones is sad that Dementia Joe is stepping down, is sad about this whole situation. So I reject what Ben Shapiro says about this. I don't agree with him. And this is what happens when these both left-wing and right-wing people get too big, right? You have someone like myself. The reason that I've started the show, for anyone that doesn't know, is because I was an American taxpayer, a patriot who's frustrated about what's going on with our country, and I wanted to try and find a way to fight back, and a way to have my voice heard. And the way for me to do that was to start the show, communicate with everybody else out there. And it didn't matter. And I said this from the very beginning. It didn't matter if I reached 5 people, 500 people, or 5,000 people. I wanted to get my voice out there. I wanted to share what's really going on, not the bullshit that they blow up your ass. And I wanted to speak from one American taxpayer to another American taxpayer, not these rich elite shitbags like Van Jones, or on the right, Ben Shapiro, who's rich, loaded with money, running his own right-wing conservative site, and then they take everything from their own slant and their own opinion. Van Jones is a scumbag. Don't listen to Ben Shapiro when he says otherwise. He's wrong. Just like Ben Shapiro was wrong about running in line to get the COVID vaccine with his wife, because they were, as Yale graduates who are doctors and lawyers, were too stupid to figure out what the rest of us already knew, that the shots were dangerous, don't get them. But the Yale graduates couldn't figure it out. That's 4 or 6 years or whatever they did of real helpful college education for you to figure out, don't stick the experimental vaccine in your arm. So this is what me, as a regular guy raising a family, struggling to live and maintain everything, this is what pisses me off about left-wing shitbags like Van Jones, or right-wing shitbags like Ben Shapiro or the others. And I follow him. He's a smart guy. But you have to acknowledge that he gets things wrong too. They're all not right. all the time, or even half the time for that matter. And this scumbag is saying, get behind Biden, support Biden, and yada, yada, yada. Biden's a piece of shit. He's the quintessential identity of the Democratic Party. He's the example of the Democratic Party. Old liars that are lining their pockets, who are failing this country, who hate this country, and who will just go wherever the wind blows, and will screw you and your family over, and they won't miss one wink of sleep about it. And the only reason it was a difficult decision was because he didn't. He's an egomaniac. He's a tyrant. He didn't want to give up power. That's all it is. There's the difficulty right there. The rest of the party have been pretending that he's a guy whose brain functioned and he was a guy who could run the country, just so they and the Democratic Party can continue to maintain power, because they've got the presidency and they've got the Senate. So they can veto any law that's trying to be passed or any bill that's trying to come through from the House, and they can shut it all down. So they've got the power to screw over the American people. Now they're really frightened when it's clear to, this is how bad it had to get. He had to devolve so quickly and so poorly that it became so clear to the American people that Biden's brain was expired oatmeal, that you couldn't push the false narrative anymore. You couldn't push this lie on the American people anymore. They have been forced to face this head on, and now they have been forced to troubleshoot this head on, because it is getting to the person. It's getting all the way down to the person who doesn't follow politics at all. It is making it all the way down to the very bottom of the hierarchy of human society. And they're all going, wait a minute, this guy's in charge? He's brain dead. He's gone. I voted for that guy. He's out of his goddamn mind. Now they're in damage control, and they're going, we literally can't hold him up anymore and either push him or drag him to the finish line. It is no longer possible. Now the Democratic Party is dropping him like a bad habit. That's why Van Jones and whoever this other shitbag is right here, they're all saying, well, yeah, this is what you got to do. Like, they're not really that sad about it, because they're going, he needed to get out. He sucks. We've been trying to get him out. And now we need to move on to the next person. And they've all turned on him after saying they weren't going to turn on him. Keep watching the closed captioning. I Wanderukin. Wanderukin! Attempt last Saturday. Enjo. Fine AL. Easier about Ayat. First, D Usam body. Jar Jar. Usambody. Meetings Usambody. Can't Troto is. Oter is his Y. The antithesis of OFNR. RI. High think. We think about T. Tesident. Biden of those of you. Losi. Going to help Democrao. Jofpo. Now it's Klingon. Jofpo. Wafisi Amti. Inkling MP. Now it's African. And I think the com is going dark. Tifi. We. Single D. Talk to her on Tipui. Was that. Fiddle. Fighting Efting. Faux people who are being LT Opal, who are bang left S. Built of got A. ICT got 3-5. Y day I. So listen to this fucking piece of shit talking about how he's working for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is a brain dead moron that's never earned one thing in her entire political career. She laid on her back and opened her legs. That's how she's moved towards the political ranks. And you know how this guy's a fake piece of shit? Because he's talking about how he was happy to work in her administration and that it was someone for his daughter to look up to. So your daughter's a dumb whore? Is that what you're trying to say? And he's talking about all of the Democrats have downplayed the assassination attempt on President Trump. One of the worst things to happen, an assassination attempt, there hasn't been one since Ronald Reagan. This fucking moron is trying to play it off and talking about, well, I'm so thankful that Dementia Joe was in charge during this time where the assassination attempt started. It just made me feel better. I mean, the oatmeal brain god was in charge during an assassination attempt of who is supposed to be the next president, and you felt better that oatmeal brain was in charge? It's things like this that prove to you that these people are fake. These people are stupid. They live in their own bubble of absolute ignorance. And they jerk each other off with, oh my God, Biden's so great, Kamala's so great, their country's running great. And anything else that anyone has to say outside of that bubble, they don't get it. They don't hear it. They have no idea what you're talking about. You're like this fucking closed captioning moron here. It's all gibberish that makes no sense to them. Because according to this allegedly educated, the stupidest people on the planet, like this asshole, Jamal Simmons, former communications director for Vice President Harris. Why are you former? Because she's a fucking out of control cunt. And you stepped out of her administration because she's out of her mind. Now he's on here on CNN praising her, thinking that she's great because they're going to put her up for the nomination of the next vice president. It doesn't matter that they have college degrees. These are the elites who think they know better than us because they live in their own world. And like South Park, they smell they fart in their wine glass and smell it at their cocktail parties. And it's the most amazing thing that any of them have ever had because their own farts are the most amazing things and nothing else happening outside that social elite circle matters. Your voice, my voice, anyone, it doesn't matter. And this is how these pieces of shit live. And this is how these pieces of shit like Jamal want the country to be run. Don't listen to the American people. Just buy the lie that Kamala Harris and Biden are the best people ever. They've done the most amazing job ever out of anyone, even though the world's on fire and we're about to go into World War III. They're amazing. It's Biden who's Trump, who they tried to assassinate, is still a really bad guy after the assassination. We shouldn't really focus about that or talk about that. He's really bad, and we should keep the worst human beings on the planet, we should keep them in office. Could we be a whore too? I'm already a whore. I stop. Okay, so Jamal Simmons is a complete fucking retard. Okay, so let's go to Trump's response on Biden dropping out. This should be good. Did you notice that they didn't want to say assassination? They edited it out. That wasn't me. That was ABC News. They want to fake this and downplay it so much. When she said attempted assassination, they muted her at the part where they said it's their own network. They can say assassination if they want to. They don't want to say it because they don't want to get too much real feelings. They don't want anyone to have real feelings about President Trump. So if you notice there that I just played that and it went out again, wasn't me. ABC News muted her when she said the word assassination. Let me go back a little bit. We'll play it again. Hold on, let me go back. So she says assassination, and then she says on his life, and they mute that out. So she said assassination, but then they mute out on his life. I don't understand that unless there's technical difficulties on their side. Okay, so here's something interesting here that I forgot to mention, but it's a very important point to explain why Kamala Harris, they're pushing her to be the front runner. And it's this: no one else can access their campaign funds, their war chest, other than his personal campaign, right? All of the donors and the mega donors that have given Biden campaign money at this point, only Biden and Kamala, as his vice president and running mate, are the only ones who can access this money. So it's in their war chest right now. It doesn't automatically get deposited into somebody else's account. With campaign rules, they're not allowed to do it. So if you pick a Gavin Newsom or a Gretchen Whitmore from Michigan or somewhere else, they're not going to get that money. They're going to start over from scratch for, 5 months, 6 months away from the election happening in November, right? So normally you're building this up for several years as you're getting ready to run for office. Now they're going to do it in less than a year if you're a brand new candidate stepping in from the word get-go. So in my opinion, the reason they're pushing Kamala is she has access to all the progress the Biden-Harris campaign has already made up to this point. And they have to push her or they lose access to all that money. So that's TV ads, that's on the road campaigning, that's the supplies and the people they're using to help run this whole thing. They need that. They can't lose access to it. So in one final thing here, because more information is going to come out about this, so I'm going to read this part and then we're going to wrap up for the night. So after Biden drops out of, this is the Hill, after Biden drops out of the 2024 race, does Kamala Harris become the Democratic nominee? Not exactly. Joe Biden has officially dropped out of the 2024 presidential race, making him one of just a handful of presidents to end their re-election campaigns. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it's the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president. For the remainder of my term, Biden wrote in a letter posted to social media affirming the speculation that has been building since his June debate with the former president Donald Trump. Though Biden did not endorse his vice president Kamala Harris in that letter, He later put his support behind her in a separate post to X. They've never really liked each other. This is the backroom baseball. They do not like each other, even when they were running against each other. You remember her in the primaries calling him a racist. They don't like each other. She was the DEI hire. She was the black woman, black female who met all the criteria of the Democratic Party that they could just toss in office. She had zero qualifications. So they don't like each other, and she's not capable of being president at all. But he's pushed it for, on X, he said that I'm endorsing Kamala Harris. Does that make Harris a new Democratic nominee? Not exactly. Technically speaking, Biden was not even the formal party nominee. That nomination was set to come in August during a virtual roll call ahead of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Biden was expected to be top of the ticket after nearly 3,900 delegates pledged to cast their ballots for him. Harris, who is the only candidate who can directly tap into the Biden campaign's war chest under federal campaign finance rules, stands as the party's instant favorite to win the nomination during the DNC. So imagine you and your buddy are saving up a whole bunch of money to do something, and you two are the only that have the only access to do it. And one of you dies or gets knocked out and disappears or whatever. No one new can come in and take over the new buddy role. Your partner needs to move forward from there with the money that you've rallied and put together. No one else has access to it. So with him dropping out, she is the one that inherits all of the war chest, has the legal right to use this as his running mate and vice president. If she said, I'm not running with you and I'm dropping out and I'm doing my own thing, she might not have had access to it either. But because she stayed in there, and she's an opportunist. Kamala's absolutely an opportunist. She has gained everything by finding the right time, the right situation, or the right bed to lay on and spread her legs in order to move her political career from California to Washington, D.C. So as stupid as a human being as she is smart enough to know which way the wind's blowing and what action she should take. And she knows she needs to stay in there, support Biden, keep pretending to support Biden, and hang in there long enough for one of two things. The 25th Amendment happened and he stepped down, died, or he did what he's doing right now and pushed her up as a front runner. And she hung out for one of those three eventualities, and her bet paid off. She made it. So Democrats are now technically starting with an open convention. During an open convention, delegates could cast their ballot for any candidate. The candidate who wins a simple majority would be the new Democratic nominee. If no candidate could get that simple majority, superdelegates who could vote for the candidate of their choosing will also vote. The superdelegates are senators, major donors, congressmen, etc. Delegates under party rules are basically required to vote for the candidate chosen by voters. The superdelegates plus the pledged delegates would all continue to hold votes until a candidate received a winning majority. Biden cannot pass his delegates off to Harris or any other candidate, so they need to make their own independent decision. He can't just say, hey, all of you that were voting for me, go vote for Kamala. They need to make their own complete decision, but chances are they'll follow the Democratic Party and vote for this stupid bitch. It's unclear if anyone will challenge Harris for the nomination or if Democrats will push for an open convention or a rapid primary where candidates can make their case to the public before the Democratic National Convention begins August 19th in Chicago. Instead, the immediate burden falls on Harris to solidify support across almost 4,000 delegates from the states, territories, and District of Columbia, plus more than 700 so-called superdelegates that include party leaders, certain elected officials, and former presidents and vice presidents. So Barack Obama and Clinton and Hillary are all considered superdelegates because they served in administrations before and held higher points of power. So their votes actually cast more than a regular delegate. But they have the right to vote, obviously, as well. In a statement released Sunday, Harris said she intends to earn and win this nomination. While nothing, she is honored to have the president's endorsement. I'm sure you are, you fucking whore. Other names like California Governor Gavin Newsom and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, the governor bitch who orchestrated her own kidnapping in Michigan, were suggested as possible candidates even before Biden announced his decision. As The Hill previously reported, several lawmakers had publicly said they would support Harris as a nominee if Biden were to step aside, and there would likely be political backlash if the party skipped over the first woman and first woman of color, which is what I said earlier. They backed themselves into a corner with the diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit that the Democrat does. If they step over the first potential black female president, all they do is take away any more of their credentials that they've already pretended to have. So they back themselves into a corner with her. Roughly 79% of Democrats, when asked who they would support if Biden stepped aside, said they would approve of Harris landing atop the ticket, according to a poll released Thursday. Democratic National Committee Chairman Jamie Harrison says following President Joe Biden's abandoning his re-election bid, that the work we must do now, while unprecedented, is clear. In the coming days, the party will undertake a transparent and orderly process to move forward. Harrison said in a statement, with a candidate who can defeat Donald Trump in November. Not one of these shitbags can defeat Donald Trump. They've done pre-polling about this because they already knew where this was heading. So they've pulled Newsom, they've pulled Whitmore, they've pulled Kamala and others. And while they saw a bump in Democratic-held districts and states, it was like Trump 48, Kamala 46 or something like that. They all collectively across the board, even with the bump of changing who was running, did not match President Trump. There was still a negative to that whole thing. His statement also noted that in short order, the American people will hear from the Democratic Party on the next steps and the path forward for the nomination process. So there we go, folks. That's where we are right now. The Democratic Party is in chaos as they choose somebody else to run. I'm 100% here for it. I hate the Democrats, hate America. They hate conservatives. They hate you, even if you're a supporter. They hate you. They just don't want to say it because they need your vote. And I'm all for the Democratic Party tearing themselves apart at this point with Joe Biden stepping down today. A lot of people have been guessing that he would in fact do that and step down. And it looks like those guesses were correct. He is stepping down and it is over. So that's the update that I have for everyone today. Thank you for everyone that tuned in, that is supporting the show and continues to support the show. We're back on YouTube here as well. I'm simulcasting on YouTube for better or for worse. You know, I started the show on YouTube and I transitioned over to Rumble because there's no free speech on YouTube. Very early on in starting the show, I received a warning and already received a strike, which would as eventually as I went on, they could demonetize me, and then I can't make any future money on YouTube if they do that. I would have to look to other sources for it. So you can't tell the truth on YouTube. You can only speak within the narrative that they give to everybody, the lying narrative to the American people. But I want to expand the show. I want to get it out there and get more eyeballs on it. So it's live streaming on YouTube as well as the Relief Valve podcast. And then it's also on Rumble as Matt Ventilator, all one word, but you still see the Relief Valve podcast logo in the show. So, everyone, thanks everyone. Like, share, and support the show, and support me and help me grow it. And on audio as well, Apple Podcast and Amazon Music and wherever podcasts can be found. All right. That's the updates that we have today with all of this. And I'm sure a lot more is going to be coming out. So stay tuned. It's only going to get crazier for the Democrats, and anything that hurts the Democrats is good for America. So I'm all about it. Thanks everyone. And we'll talk to you again soon.